Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. Real excited this week. We're coming to you from Nashville at the ACEIT Interdiction Conference. Guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. It's been this is the end of day one of class. I thought it was a really good turnout. Appreciate you guys having me out here and giving me the opportunity to speak with you guys. So, Bauer, if you want to go around the table here and just introduce everybody, we pretty much got the whole ACEIT crew here.
We do. We're -1, which even if he was here, he'd probably keep his face covered. But he's one of our instructors that teaches a class investigating drug investigations as well as gangs. He does a lot of undercover work, and his classes dive deep into cultivating and managing informants all the way to infiltrating like some of the deepest criminal organizations that there are. The class is phenomenal. We keep his name, out of the social media and kind of the public's ear just because he's still involved in a lot of those cases. But his resume is unbelievable. You can see it online, and just reading his resume, his class is going to be good. The experience that this guy has had over the decades of law enforcement that he's given back to his state that he worked in, and it just goes to show that the class is going to be good, that in and of itself. So he's not here, but who we do have here is obviously myself and Al, who are the owners of ACE Interdiction Tactics, which I won't go too deep into that because your listeners have probably heard enough of us already since we were on here before. But yeah, we own and operate ACE Interdiction Tactics, which is a training company that was focused on the intercepting of contraband initially flowing throughout the United States. And then we started to branch out a little bit, and we just really got into the idea of let's build this training company and try to get every aspect of drug investigations, whether that's proactive or that's the side of investigating things through informants or whatever it may be, and try to cover all angles of getting drugs off the street. So when we decided to do that and expand, we got super lucky, like I said on our last podcast that we had with you, where we had an opportunity to reach out to Jeremy. And Jeremy probably doesn't know this, but when he reached out to me, what he did was he was reaching out to me to get some advice on how to start his own company. And when he said that, I was like, oh no, I'm not going to let that happen. Like, he's got to come over to us. And so I called Al right away, and I was like, we got to get Jeremy over here. His class fits right into our class, meaning we do a 2-day interdiction tactics course explaining how to stop cars, create roadside conversation, ultimately, based on the information during that traffic stop, decide whether you do or do not have reasonable suspicion, and then ultimately trying to get into that car somehow, constitutionally. What we don't cover a lot of is once you do get into the car, all the sophisticated hides that experienced drug trafficking organizations have and what they can construct in these vehicles. So when Jeremy told me that, I thought, man, what a perfect addition to the company.
Yeah.
And so somehow, I don't know how, I was able to convince Jeremy to come over, which has been a huge blessing for us because his class is phenomenal. I've sat through it several times, and it's one day just full of information, and it's very, very well put together. So we got him on board, and then it was kind of a funny story. We're at the National Interdiction Conference, and I was talking to Jeremy, and this random dude walks up and just starts talking to Jeremy like I'm a nobody, right? And
Right.
I'm like, who is this guy, and why did he just interrupt my conversation with Jeremy? And so I was like, well, I feel a little bit out of a place. I'm just going to go head back up to my room. Like, who's this dude? Right? So I head up back to the room, and I'm there for like 45 minutes, and I come back down, and this dude is still talking to Jeremy. And I'm like, we're supposed to go to lunch. Like, what's going on here? So I call Jeremy, and I'm watching. I can see Jeremy. And I call him and I said, and he answers. And I'm like, hey, dude, do you need saving? Like, who is this dude? Like, just tell him that we're going to lunch. And all Jeremy says was, no, I'm good. And then hangs up. I'm like, thanks, Jeremy. Right. And so I sit there and I'm watching Jeremy talk to this dude forever. And then finally they split up and Jeremy comes over to me. I'm like, what is that dude's deal? And he's like, you know what? I talked to him a little bit on social media. His name's Nick Bonney. And he wanted to talk to me a little bit about ACEIT and stuff like that. And I was talking to him, and I think he'd be a really good addition to ACEIT, And I'm like, well, what does he teach? And he told me he teaches parcel as well as consensual encounters. And I was like, dude, that fits perfectly. We've got our interdiction tactics class, Jeremy's cartel traps class. That's another avenue of interdiction that we don't cover. let's do that. Like, I'd totally love to hear him.
Right.
Well, it turns out that Nick was actually teaching at that conference. So I got to go sit in and listen to his class, and the way he teaches, how smooth he is, how articulate he is. I was able to put aside the fact that he just like interrupted me and Jeremy and I's conversation and pretended like I was a nobody. And I was like, all right, I think this dude's pretty good. So I sat down with him for a short time at NIC. Humble dude, hard worker, very successful at what he does. And I thought, hey, that's a good one. So I convinced him to come on, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Tyler over here, which Tyler teaches a class that almost seemed as if it didn't fit into kind of our model to some people. To us, it fits perfectly, right? So what happened was, I think, and I'm speaking for you guys, but Tyler was kind of getting into the instruction game and kind of looking at different companies. And Nick had told us, hey, Tyler's looking for these different companies. What do you know about some of these companies? And I said, hey, they're all great. All these companies are great, but I want that class. If he's going to teach that class, I want it. Which what he teaches is our Fatal Dose class, which is awesome constructed class to where we can teach these uniformed officers or even detectives or investigators how to take an overdose case and work it backwards and hold the dealers accountable with wrongful death type charges, whether that's federal through the state. And I thought that was such a needed training amongst every officer, and it fits in because we handle the investigations of trying to intercept these drugs as much as possible. But as we know, that's just impossible to ultimately just shut the door on these drugs. They're going to get through us. And so Tyler's picking up where, we failed in a way to shut these drugs down, and he's working them backwards. And I thought, what an awesome opportunity that would have. So I talked to Nick and said, hey, man, if he wants to come on board, I would love him. Talked to Al, and we talked to both Nick and Tyler, and talked to Tyler for some time. And I was like, yep, once again, perfect fit. So with that being said, that's everybody here as of right now. But I just have to say, like, as a owner of this company, again, super biased, but we have the best instructors when it comes to these games, for sure, 100%.
You guys definitely have a well-rounded, course catalog.
Sure.
I mean, from anything that you're trying to get at, if you're on the investigative side, if you like to work parcels, you're interested in traps, so definitely impressed with you guys. So we're going to go around the room real quick and give everybody a little chance to talk to the viewers out there. So let's start with you, Tyler. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then just a Reader's Digest of your class. And
definitely. So I've been with the Nebraska State Patrol since 2010, moved into investigations in 2017, kind of started in the pharmaceutical diversion realm of things and just working pills. And Nebraska's kind of behind everything else. And so we were still working doctor shoppers, and, fentanyl really wasn't in our minds at that point. Just went to a couple conferences and heard the word fentanyl and didn't have any idea what was going on. And then about 2019, we started to see the overdose deaths, and 2021, we started a group up. There is a task force that responds to the scenes of the overdoses, and that was in our bigger city. And we really just started working it back up, and I'm not a homicide detective. I've never pretended to be one. I've been a drug investigator since I got into it.
Right.
And, so it's different for me to work a death, a dead person sitting there. But we can go from one pill all the way down to the source in Mexico, and we'll diet everybody on the way up.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, it was quite the change of doing things. And, I see Nick every day in the office, and a lot of times, sometimes our cases would meet in the middle. I'm working it up and I'm on the third rung, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, you got a package coming in? Like, that's my guy, and or we didn't even know the one time he's standing at a doorstep, and I'm like, I know who that is. Like, I need that guy. And we didn't get him. But anyway,
that's awesome.
So it's a little bit different. We'll cover it, us investigators, detectives, we don't get those calls if the uniforms don't respond and be able to say, hey, this looks like an overdose.
Right.
And, a lot of times we don't get to the scenes. And so we need that uniform to take the steps necessary that we can work those cases up. So just preserving phones and getting phone numbers, interviewing witnesses, all those things that they could do right there on the scene. I can't recreate that. So it's pretty big for us to get those vital pieces of evidence right there. So
that's awesome. That's definitely a very important course, especially with everything that's going on in the world. And we will get into that even more. If you guys tune in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have individual interviews with Tyler, with Nick, and with Jeremy as well. While we got everybody in one place here in Nashville. So y'all stay tuned for those. So Jeremy?
Yeah, my name is Jeremy Bedingfield. I'm a cop in California. I don't like to claim California, but it is what it is. It's not that bad of a state to be a cop there. There's actually some decent laws for law enforcement, but I started doing interdiction about 8 years ago, and that was on a part-time basis. I was mostly working investigations for a narcotics team, and I was working informants, handling undercover operations. I wasn't the undercover, obviously, but I was coordinating them and doing a lot of different things. And through those investigations, I started learning about higher level drug smuggling, and I've never lost the interest of going out and making a traffic stop on something that you spotted on your own and finding something good in the car. So I've just gradually gravitated towards full-time interdiction. So right now I'm full-time on the highway handling a dog, and I'm still on the same team, but now my mission is 100% interdiction every day. I still support some of our operations, but that's about it. And so through that, I've learned how to search a car. And when I first started, I was doing stops here and there, not having any idea of what I was doing and what I was looking for. And there was a bunch of Border Patrol guys that were in my area that were phenomenal. They've taught me everything that I know for the most part. There's some classes that I've went to. Mike Tomez down in Texas, like you probably know through your talking with him in one of your podcasts. Some other guys that are real good that have taught me some stuff, but the Border Patrol guys really taught me hands-on, right, showing me on the job. So I would do a bunch of stops. They would come with the canine, and then they would be searching the cars right next to me, and I was blown away at how they were searching cars. And it was at that moment that I was like, I want to be an expert in this. I want to be the person that somebody calls if they need a car search.
Right.
And that's kind of like the how my car searching abilities came to be. I was never a car nerd. I was never the type of guy that knew a lot about cars. I mean, I could change my oil and change my tires, but nothing sophisticated. And through searching as many cars as I could and learning from those guys, I've kind of become what I know as more of a vehicle expert. Now I can actually name parts in cars, and sometimes I can't even name a part in a car, but I might know that they can hide drugs in it, and I know to look there, and I know the signs to look for. So, I teach that, how to search a car, mostly called class called Cartel Traps, and we just dive deep into every void in the car that they hide dope in. I go over how to clear it, what signs you're looking for, if there's tooling and tampering on it, and it's everything from basic stuff. I'm talking patrol level. You pop a panel on the center console and there's an ounce of dope right behind it, to high level wheel collars and gas tank loads and roof traps and seat traps, floor traps. Anything you can think of is going to be in the trap, or is going to be in the class.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely looking forward to Wednesday, hearing all the stuff that you have to talk about. So, all right, Nick.
Yeah, I'm Nick Monty. I'm with Nebraska State Patrol. I've been with them for 13 years. I've been in my current position, which is the Criminal Interdiction Unit, since 2018. 2019. I've had a canine since 2021. What we focus on, or what the group I'm in, we focus on, is parcel interdiction, and conducting consensual encounters at mass transit, whether that's a bus, or the train, or the airport, and also, like I said, parcels. During the parcels, we also conduct controlled deliveries if we're finding what we assume or what we want to deliver, that large quantity, to be able to get to that. So I really enjoy it because this is the part of the interdiction that you are really making an effect in your community.
Right.
These drugs are being shipped into your community. They're affecting the people that are around you. Your admin could get behind you because you are actually saving lives. It wasn't that long ago, back in October, November, I interdicted 26,000 fentanyl pills Tyler's talking about. So DEA says 1 in every 4, 1 in every 6 pills it could cause an overdose. So that alone saved lives.
Right.
Just going to your parcel, spending 2 hours there every day, there's undoubted that we saved lives that day. So it's a very rewarding because you're giving back to your community. It's a great group of guys that I work with. It's fun knowing that you're waking up in the morning and everybody has that same mission mindset to find drugs and put bad people in jail.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I instruct a class called Intercept. I'm super happy to be with ACEIT. They have a great name, great background, great following already. So I'm very excited and can't wait to see what the future brings.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was watching the little teaser video that they had on earlier. It looks like you guys do a lot of running.
Yeah.
You do a lot of foot chase.
On my wind sprints.
Not as catching.
I could get to it's just not going to be first.
Yeah.
You got to carry elastic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I never thought about that. Just put it on my hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Al?
I'm Albert Clark. I'm co-owner with Bauer and with the ACE Interdiction Tactics company. And, we have come a long way since the inception of ACEIT. I'm super stoked about these guys and their classes. I'm like Bauer. I believe we have the best instructors in the nation, and our classes are top notch. These guys are on fire, and it's exciting to be around and share the same energy with these guys. Super excited about the future. 2025 is going to be a big hit for us.
I think so. Which that kind of is a good segue into my next question. So, and this is for whoever wants to answer it. So, as instructors, how has technology both influenced the drug traffickers and the interdiction tactics? And how, as an instructor, can you get ahead of the curve on that?
I'll start on that one. So when it comes to parcel interdiction, the traffickers are using the technology provided to them at no cost, which is the ability to track the package, being able to change the drop location, revert the package and come back to them. Maybe they're hinked up. Maybe they're the person that's supposed to catch it is hinked up. They think something's going on. Maybe they want to change the drop location just to change up law enforcement. So that technology that they're using for free is going against us. So we just got to be. You have to go to the store every day and watching the package. You have to be able to articulate the reasons why you want it in the package and have a K-9 available when it is, and have just a group of guys around you to help intercept these packages. It's not a one-person job.
Yeah.
So the technology that they're using, we have to be just as good at it, if not better.
Right.
Another way that they're doing is they're using they're tracking it on their own methods, whether it's a tracker in a car or in a trunk that you guys find. There's Apple AirTags. There's other kind of trackers that are within these parcels. And so how do we find those? We can't be at a parcel company, take that package back to our office because they're seeing that. And they're like, why is this at the Nebraska State Patrol office when it's supposed to be on a truck going to? So how do you find that?
Yeah.
Well, there's different apps and whatnot that you're able to scan this package. It's able to tell you, hey, there's an Apple AirTag nearby, or there's this other tracker nearby, or something that's within that box. So then we have to change our tactics just because they're using that technology available to them.
Yeah, it sounds like it's an ever evolving, type of operation. So, if a person were to come to your class this year, and then 2 years from now he's like, "Oh, I've already been to that class." Well, there's a good chance that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's changed.
Yeah.
Try to get ahead of it. How would you recommend those officers that have been to your class or who are planning on coming to your class to stay up to date on the trends and the kind of stuff that's going on?
I'd say if they come to my class, then they're working parcel interdiction. Parcels is a little bit different, I think, because the percentage of officers that work parcels is much smaller than who's working the highways. It's not as sexy. You're not in a patrol car. You're not getting in pursuits per se. And sometimes your administration is just like, you want to go stand on a belt and watch packages go by. They don't understand it. So the officers that do get it and that do work it, we're all connected.
Right.
I know guys in Pennsylvania. I know people from California to Pennsylvania down to Florida. and all in between that work parcels. So we all share intel. We all keep up on this. So I look forward to building that relationship with the people that come to my class. It's not just a training. It's a friendship. It's a relationship. It's a how we can get better and grow better as investigators throughout the United States, and to be able to stay on top of parcel interdiction and consensual encounters.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. So I'll ask this to the group. How important is collaboration among officers and agencies to have a successful interdiction team, as far as whether it be on the highway, parcels, public transit, or any sort of investigation or interdiction team that you're on? How important is that collaboration, the networking, those contacts? How important is that to being successful?
I'll speak on the overdose side. I mean, this is kind of the end result, but I do a whole piece on deconfliction for us. Like, that's huge for us. And like, just be able to have those relationships across the country or the state to get, pick up the phone and be like, hey, I just deconflicted with you on this number. What do you got on that? And they might have that missing piece for your investigation that you were looking for. And they're like, oh, I know that guy. He does this, this, and this. And as a dealer, and it kind of can put the whole thing together for you if you're trying to trace down that next source. So it's huge for us to be able to call across the state and have, a local police department or a sheriff's office that you've built that contact with, that you can pick up the phone and call and kind of put the puzzle together. So that's huge on our part. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And not to talk the whole time, but parcels is just as big. You got guys working outbound, you guys working inbound. I miss in also consensual encounters, mass transits. I know I miss loads, and when you go back and watch the camera, you're like, signs of deception galore. Like, or you just can't get into it. If you go talk to somebody in consensual encounter, they don't want to talk to you, or they break that contact, and you don't have enough to detain them. You know where he's going to, so you know what destination city he's going to. You know the stops in between because you built those relationships up to be able to, like, hey, I missed it. Or I just couldn't get it, or the bus was leaving, right? So if you don't talk to anybody, that person's gone, just because you don't have that. And I know you guys have that on the roadside too.
I almost can't think of anybody more that needs networking than somebody that does parcels. Yeah. Like it got sent from somewhere that isn't where you work. Or it's being sent to somewhere that isn't where you work. Like you have to have those. And, you guys hit a parcel in Omaha or somewhere in Nebraska, and then it got sent from Los Angeles or wherever. You need to network with those people so that you can do follow up and you can actually investigate the cell that you have rather than just taking it down there. Like, obviously we don't want to end the investigation with just the seizure itself, or even if you do a controlled delivery, you don't want to end it there. You want to hit the it's the goal. Same thing with interdiction is, if I stop a car wherever it's coming from, I don't want to network with those people, or wherever it's going, I may want to network with those people for controlled deliveries. And it's important to have those contacts immediately, not, you don't want to be delayed at all if it's something like a controlled delivery that you're considering, because those loads are being tracked. Like you said, they all have GPS on them. And if the car is sitting still very long, they're going to know, and your controlled delivery is not going to be successful. So you got to be able to move quick and contact people and get teams up and spin everybody up in order to do a controlled delivery successfully. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of people's time. So
we've had overdose scenes where the box that they got in the mail, or through UPS, whatever it is, sitting right next to them, and they open it up and they overdose and die.
Wow.
Well, now we're going technology piece. Like, I got to find that phone, figure out where he got it from. Now it's a dark web case. Okay, who are my contacts and whatever agency I know that's done dark web that can help me out with that? And then I'm calling somebody in California, Arizona, going, hey, I think this is where it came from. Can you check at this, shipment center or whatever it is? So all those contacts are huge across the board. So
what would you say? So if there's any administrators listening, so I know they're always tired of people putting in for training and this, that, and the other. Like, you got enough training this year, whatever. How important is the networking part of people attending a training class with people from all over the country, all over the state, in addition to the stuff you're learning out of the instructor? But how important is the networking time that they get during the breaks and stuff?
I think it's super important. If you notice, even today, I try to make sure that that's what's happening. And I try to network with everybody too. These guys have talked a lot about networking, furthering their case, but there's also another aspect of networking that I have seen. You know, I'm an instructor. I've been teaching for the last 5 years, but by no means do I know it all, right? And so when I have a chance to go and teach, you know, from state to state and meet different interdictors and different officers, we get their contact information for networking purposes, and maybe I will pass a case on. But also, if I run into something that I think this guy knows more about or can teach me about, you know, I'll hit him up and be like, hey, have you ever seen this? This is what I just ran into on the interstate. And so not only are we furthering cases, but we're learning from each other one-on-one. And so that break time is for people to meet each other, exchange numbers, being able to find out, hey, where do you work? Hey, I work this same road. I work it down this way. And then, yeah, they're furthering cases, but, you know, they're learning back and forth from each other. I mean, I've met a lot of people throughout the trainings that we've done that I've contacted and be like, hey, man, I know you've seen this before, but I just saw this. Mm-hmm. What did you think? Or have you seen this? And we learn from each other too. It's just a whole nother aspect of networking that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's awesome. A couple more things and we're going to jump off here. I know you've been talking all day, but
my voice.
Yeah.
Screaming all day.
Yeah. So what's the most difficult aspect of teaching officers? I know, you know, you teach people, these are the tactics that you need to learn in order to be a successful interdiction officer or partial interdiction. But in your classes, the parts of your classes that you touch on, like the officer safety and trying not to get hurt. I know you talked about this in your class today about your positioning yourself and not getting hit by cars, not getting shot by people, all that kind of stuff. How does that part of your training affect you as far as like, I mean, obviously that's a real important aspect of it, you know, to think that the information that you're providing could possibly help them to be able to go home at the end of the day.
Well, it's a huge important part. I mean, I want to spend a lot of time with these guys, teaching them how to identify factors of criminal activity and ultimately decide whether or not through some type of analysis, whether or not they have reasonable suspicion based on the totality of the circumstances. And in order for somebody to do that, and I've said this all day today, but they have to turn on those professional observer skills. And when you are looking throughout the car for these things, you're paying attention to body behavior, you're paying attention to deceptive behavior. You're trying to think about what question you're going to ask next that can expose the cover story. There's so much going on in your brain that it's easy when you employ those tactics to get distracted from your officer safety. And so it's an equal balance when you teach is like, hey, you're going to look for this, but it's just as important to make sure you're not jeopardizing officer safety in order to do so.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we implement in our trainings a little bit more or a little bit about that, because I want to make sure I'm asking these guys to look for a shit ton of stuff on a traffic stop. And I do not want anybody to be like, oh, well, Bauer told me when I'm walking up on the car, I need to make sure to see if there's any tampering here or there that's indicative of compartment. Well, don't do that if you're going to be able, if it takes away from your officer safety. So I think it's a big portion of our class as far as importance. And I hit it really hard, really quickly. And then we focus more on the, totality of the factors we see and whether or not they equate to reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
But try to make sure that is a focus point, a quick focus point of don't do this while jeopardizing your safety.
Yeah. That's awesome. Last question here. And whoever wants to answer it can, if you'll have a particular story in mind. What's been the most rewarding part about being able to train officers, give them all this knowledge, and having them, return back with success stories like, hey, man, this thing you told me about at your class 2 weeks ago or a month ago, I used it on this situation and I was able to get this load or whatever. Do y'all get those kind of calls and feedback? And if so,
I think that is the reward. And I think this is a question that, if these guys want, we should probably just roundtable this, just because I'm sure these guys have stories too. But In the beginning of my class, I talk about a little bit of the discouragement officers go through and that how proactive police work can cure that discouragement if people just go out and arrest bad guys. That's why you became a cop in the first place. So go do it, and that will make you happy. Then I'm really big on that because it's very rare that we see a discouraged proactive cop, right? It's not really a thing because that proactivity cures that discouragement, in my opinion. And so we teach that. And one time we had a guy come up to us, kind of a personal story, but basically said that he was in that dark hole of discouragement in law enforcement and wanted to quit. And at times thought about, based on the things he had seen in law enforcement, that maybe he would end not just his career, but end it all. Yeah. And coming to our class was just an eye opener of like, hey, maybe I'm the reason I'm discouraged because I'm not actively going and hunting criminals. And to get that feedback was a little bit on the different side. Of course, we get the trophy shots after class and different things on them employing and applying the tactics to the roadway. But I think that was one of the biggest things that we have ever seen is a guy coming up telling us, hey, like you just rejuvenated, my entire outlook on law enforcement and kind of changed not only his life, but his career too. So that was a big one for us.
That's awesome. Does anybody else have a feedback story that you remember that you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't have anything as significant as that. So
yeah, right.
Maybe I should have. I apologize.
Yeah. The only thing I have is, there's been a bunch of successes, which is my favorite thing. I absolutely love it when somebody hits me up afterwards and shares their success. And sometimes I even hear about it through other people. So somebody else will tell me, hey, this person hit a load and found a trap, and they're just a little bit too humble, like they don't want to come off as braggy, and so they don't tell me, and I got to reach out to them and say, hey, I told you in class, let me know because I want to hear about it. But anyways, there's a bunch of those stories that I think are pretty significant. There's a bunch of people that have found hidden compartments. Just recently, somebody found a bunch of powdered fentanyl in an exhaust tunnel trap. Using the training and searching the car. Most significantly, I find that patrol officers are finding, guns and street level dope hidden in vehicles, just in places that they wouldn't have normally searched. And so, it's a tough one when you're teaching hidden compartments because, what's the likelihood of a patrol guy that just went to his very first interdiction class, or maybe it's his second, and he's going to go out and hit a trap loaded with 20 kilos of coke. That's maybe a once in a lifetime stop for that person. And so what I think the most significant thing about the class, or the most success that comes from the class, is the patrol guys that are going out, they're popping a panel, they're finding a gun that was just used in a homicide. That's happened 3 or 4 times. They're finding all sorts of guns and street level dope that they just wouldn't have normally found. And it always makes me proud when somebody says, I talked to the person that I arrested afterwards, and they said that they always hide it in there and nobody ever finds it. And they're like the first cop to find it. And they've been searched many times. And it's like that right there is the epitome of knowing how to search a car properly. That's my favorite thing. Yep. Anytime I search a car and I find something that it's been searched before, when it was loaded, it's like, I hate to say it's like a huge ego boost, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like it just, nothing makes me more excited to search a car than know it's already been searched in the past. Yeah. Like that is my favorite thing. If I worked 40 and there was 10 interdictors before me, and I saw a car and somebody's like, oh, it already got searched, I'm probably going to want to search it just because I'm like, you never know. Yeah. It's kind of like it's good, healthy competition between each other. And I'm very proud of the patrol guys that go out there and they're handling business and finding a lot of this stuff, because ultimately that's the goal, is just taking contraband off the street, taking guns off the street that aren't supposed to be there, and putting bad guys in jail.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one thing, whenever you do it, because you do it all the time. You go out, you find a trap, you're like, okay, I got another trap. But then to see the people that you've imparted your knowledge on go out and be successful, I think it's probably pretty rewarding, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate. Yeah. It's why you do it, really. Yeah. You're traveling around, you're away from your family, you're taking time off work. It's very worth it when somebody has a successful seizure. They used your training and found something, or they used a compilation of your training and some other classes, and they found something that they wouldn't have normally found. It's like, you can't ask for anything more.
That's cool. Anybody have anything else? If not,
I just want to comment real quick. When we started this business, one of the goals was to, I'm at the stage of the game where there's less time left and there's less sand, I guess, left in the hourglass than there was. And you want to share your knowledge and leave it out there so that it continues and people don't have to start learning all over why they can have a jump start in their careers. And to me, it's very rewarding to see these guys going out here. I mean, modern day law enforcement has got a jump start on learning how to interdict, learning how to investigate these crimes. It makes me, I'm very humbled and I'm very proud of these guys because they go out and they teach. And they're teaching and spreading the knowledge to everybody that they can. And the audiences are getting bigger and bigger, and they're able to teach their techniques and the things that work for them. And these guys are able to deploy those same techniques and have success. So you're seeing this thing snowball out there, and it's a great thing to see because I wish I had that when I was younger. I wish I had those opportunities. And today in law enforcement, those opportunities are here. And so anybody that's looking for a chance to better themselves, to expand their career, need to look into this training. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good point. There's endless opportunities,
Absolutely.
Way more than there was even 10 years ago,
Absolutely.
So, well, guys, I appreciate y'all's time. Enjoyed the class today. I'll be looking forward to the rest of the week. And for all you guys out there at home listening, stay tuned because, like I said, we're going to have individual interviews with these three guys coming up in the next few weeks. So until next time, we'll see y'all down the road on Texas Narcos. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you, God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.